Hey, everybody, this is Stan Scott with Foggy Bottom Line Media. Today's November 3rd, Monday, November 3rd, and with the elections here in Virginia tomorrow, I thought I'd do a quick spot report on the one of the ads that Winsome Sears has up now. I just saw it, and I thought I'd comment on it because I think I have a good response to this. In the ad, she shows a clip of from the debate where she asks Abigail Spanberger about the infamous Jay Jones texts. So I and Spanberger didn't say anything. She stood there, more or less stone faced, looked really uncomfortable because it was a difficult question to answer in the moment. And I understand that it's pretty easy to think of a response after the fact, a witty comeback, as it were, after the fact. But I think the best response to this, and the one I would make now if someone asked me about this, would be that Jones sent these texts right after a very contentious committee hearing on a gun control legislation. And the Republicans sat in the hearing and heard stories from people who were victims of gun violence, who had lost their children to victims of gun violence, school shootings, domestic abuse, this kind of violence where the perpetrator used a firearm to kill someone or hurt someone or threaten someone. And then after the hearing, they voted down this legislation. They opposed this legislation. And I think the point Jones was trying to get across to Delegate Coiner was, sometimes people don't really understand this stuff until they feel it personally. So until someone in your family becomes a victim or you become a victim. And I think that was the point he made it. And he made it poorly. He made it in very poor taste. And he used poor judgment doing it. But it was in a text to a colleague making what I think is, generally speaking, a valid point if you can make it in a coherent way that doesn't make you sound like you're threatening someone, which his text did sound like. But my response would be something like, well, Lieutenant Governor Sears, yeah, those texts were inappropriate. They were bad. They were wrong. They're in some senses disqualifying. But if you really oppose violence, political or any other kind of violence, you also have to oppose using firearms to commit that violence, which means that we need to do something about the ubiquity of firearms in Virginia households. It leads to higher suicide. It leads to higher domestic violence. It leads to school shootings. And we need to make sure we do something to make sure that only the good guys have guns, that domestic abusers don't have firearms, that mentally unstable people don't have firearms, so they can't go shoot up the high school, so they can't kill their spouse or wound their spouse, so they can't threaten others with this firearm. So you're the real supporter of violence because you don't oppose or you don't support common sense firearm regulation. Jay Jones should not have sent those texts. That's not the way to discuss politics. But Jay Jones wasn't violent, and he wasn't supporting political violence. The Republican Party are the supporters of political violence because they're the ones that support everyone can have a gun with no background checks, no registration of any kind. You can carry it anywhere you want, anytime you want. That's Republican policy on guns. That's Republican policy on violence. This leads to situations where people think guns are a good response. Guns are a good solution to problems. So you're the one who really supports violence. And so that's what I think I might have said after the fact. Now, obviously, witty comebacks, hard to do in the moment, but I think this would have been a good line for Virginians later on, for the Virginia candidates, Democratic Party candidates later on. And, I had posted my own view of the Jones thing, suggesting that he should stay on the ballot, but then perhaps resign after if he won. But I think I'm going to have to change that view because at the end of the day, voters get to decide. If they want Jay Jones to be the Attorney General, we can have that discussion after the election. But to me, those texts are, in a sense, disqualifying, but they're not as disqualifying as the fact that Miyares is a fascist who supports the Trump agenda, including in sending the military and federal agents into our communities to kidnap people without warrants, without any kind of probable cause, except there's a brown person in the room or in the apartment building or at the park. This is what we need to vote against. Jones will protect abortion. He'll protect us from Trump. He'll file lawsuits that Miaris wouldn't file. But voting for Jones protects us against the exact kind of fascism the Second Amendment guys, the Virginia Civil Defense League, Citizen Defense League guys, thinks we need guns for. The exact kind of federal agents invading our communities and snatching people up that the mostly Second Amendment proponents think they really need guns for, self-protection, including against the federal government, sic semper tyrannis and all that. So that's my views on this. I thought I'd get that out there. We'll try to get it out there before Election Day. So if you like these videos, if you like the Foggy Bottom Line podcast, you can find more at www.foggybottomline.com. We're on YouTube at Foggy Bottom Line Media, and we're on Instagram and TikTok at Foggy Bottom Line. So check us out, comment, share, subscribe, let us know what you think. And we've got more content coming. So I'll sign off now. Don't forget to vote tomorrow. It's Election Day. Early voting has ended. If you haven't voted yet, you have to do it tomorrow. And come out and see the volunteers on both sides as we discuss the voting and the way forward for Virginia after tomorrow night. Thanks. This is Stan Scott, Foggy Bottom Line Media, signing off.